Hey, what's going on, guys? My name is Schdule, and today I'm going to be showing you guys my $1.7 million net worth save, more specifically the cocaine setup that I have in the barn. So a couple things to note about this setup is it actually uses the full 10 employees that you can get at the barn, and it produces the $735 8 mix Coke. Now you are able to upcharge this Coke mix to $999 like I do. I actually follow a specific guide to assign customers to dealers and then also sell Coke on my own, so that will be in the top link of the description if you guys are interested. So without any further ado, let's just get right into it. Now this setup uses 1 cleaner, 2 handlers, 3 chemists, and 4 botanists. Now you can obviously fire the cleaner if you don't care about mess, but I just like to have my barn very clean. So the way that my setup works is by using 16 pots split between 2 botanists. As you can see, the first pot here is assigned to 1 botanist, and then all these subsequent pots are in this order. And now if we take a look at the other botanist, she is assigned to the other 8 pots. You can see the specific order shown by my mouse highlighting each pot. Now, each pot has a 1-to-1 relationship with a drying rack. A good rule of thumb to follow is for every 1 Coke pot you have, you want 1 drying rack. I found through testing that having 2 pots to 1 drying rack was producing just a few too many cocoa leaves, so this is a good rule of thumb to stick with if you want efficiency. Now just something to note, this is actually a purposeful bottleneck within my setup. As you can see, all of my drying racks are assigned to gold quality. Now this isn't really needed, as the highest quality that you can currently get that makes a difference is purple. However, I use this to sort of slow down production so I don't have to order supplies as frequently. From here, the 8 drying racks on the right hand side are all specifically assigned to this cauldron over here, and it's the opposite with the drying racks on the left hand side, which are assigned to the other cauldron. So we have another 2 botanists managing 8 drying racks each, so the 8 that connect to 1 cauldron is managed by 1 botanist, and then the other 8 drying racks that connect to the other cauldron are managed by another. More specifically, the 8 pots that are handled by 1 botanist all go into the 8 drying racks that are handled by another botanist. Now I do it this way specifically because it slightly speeds up efficiency. It means when you get your farm started, there will be the same amount of cocoa leaves in each cauldron. From here, each cauldron directly connects to 1 lab oven. This is another good rule of thumb, to have 1 lab oven for every 1 cauldron and 1 cauldron for every 8 pots / drying racks. Now if you decrease the output quality on the drying racks or use fertilizer, you can use the rule of 4 pots / drying racks to 1 cauldron. This way you keep your cauldrons and your lab ovens running at peak efficiency alongside the pots and the drying racks. Now with the cauldrons, you're also going to need handler roots to take the gasoline off this shelf here and put them into the cauldrons. Now I have 2 handlers that come with 5 roots each for a total of 10 roots, so I use 1 root off each of the handlers to move the gasoline into the cauldrons, and the other 8 roots are used on mixing stations. Now moving on to the mixing stations, as you can see, each lab oven leads into exactly the same mixing station, which is the first one in the line. From here, the output destination just moves down the line until the very last mixing station, which leads to the brick press. Now with our remaining 8 handler routes, they actually move the ingredients from the shelves directly into the mixing stations. Now the way that I have this set up is again quite specific. I have 1 handler doing shelves 1, 3, 5, and 7, so all the odd numbers, and the other one doing 2, 4, 6, and 8. Now the thing is you don't really want a handler set to 1, 2, 3, and 4 and the other one set to 5, 6, 7, and 8, so I believe it's much more efficient to have the handlers assigned in this manner. And then finally, I have one of my 2 handlers assigned to the brick press, and as you can see from the routes, they go in opposites of shelves to mixing stations, and then there's also the cauldron route at the end there. Now something else to note, the way that I've assigned the chemists are also specific for peak efficiency. So we have 3 chemists total, each with 4 assigned stations, and we have 12 total stations that they need to be assigned to. So this chemist here is assigned to both a cauldron and a lab oven, and it's the same cauldron and lab oven that go into each other. And then she's also assigned to mixing station number 3 and number 6. Now the second chemist over here is assigned to the other cauldron, and she also does mixing station 1, number 4, and number 7. This means that the final chemist does the other lab oven, and then mixing station 2, 5, and 8. Just like with the handlers, I have them assigned this way for maximum efficiency. You don't really want 2 chemists doing 2 stations in a row. Now I know I break my own rule there with the lab oven to cauldron, but that one's acceptable. In terms of the mixing stations, you don't want them doing 2 in a row, so this way is much more efficient. The part of this farm that I probably like the most is the openness of the shelves, which make it really easy to get deliveries from the vans and into the shelves. Now the deliveries are the one part of this farm that you can't actually automate. However, I think the handlers are supposed to be able to take things from deliveries and put them on shelves, so maybe this will change in the future. I know that they can do it in the bungalow, but I just don't think you can do it in the barn or in the docks. But anyway, as you can see, it's really easy to transfer ingredients from the vans into the shelves anyway, because they're also open. So before I go to bed every day, I like to do my deliveries. So I order 40 of every ingredient and 80 Coke. I like to do both deliveries from both gas marts at once, and I order the same things in both the deliveries. Due to the cauldrons using more gasoline, sometimes you might have to get a little bit more in these deliveries. However, you can set it so that one of the deliveries uses the first loading bay and the other delivery uses the other loading bay. As you can see from the footage, this is actually the perfect amount of items that you can order, which is 320. So there are 8 total ingredients, 7 of them are unique, hence the 80 Coke, allowing you to order 40 of each ingredient. Now with this setup, you only technically have to refill your shelves fully once every 2 days. However, I like to just refill them every single day to keep them topped up on ingredients at all times. Now, if you want to know the exact mix I'm using, as you can see, this is my $735 cocaine that I've increased to $999. The formula is as follows. So first you start off with motor oil, then Coke, then you have paracetamol, then gasoline, then Coke again, then horse semen, then the mega bean, and finally batteries. Now the last actually useful thing that I have over here is a packing station. I make sure to use this myself so I can pack and sell cocaine to anyone who is messaging me. If I had another handler route, I would be able to automate this process, however I don't. Earlier I spoke a little bit about how the drying racks in this place were a bit of a bottleneck. And let me just explain that in a bit more detail to you guys. So technically, because you don't need your cocaine to be of gold quality, you can decrease the drying rack output quality to purple. Now each quality takes 12 hours to increase from the last, meaning that you can actually have 4 cauldrons instead of 2, and then have 4 drying racks to each cauldron if you decide to do this. Then you can also fire a botanist. You just have to be aware that you will need to hire both a handler for that extra handler route, and then also a chemist for the new machine. Or another thing you could do is fire both botanists, get rid of all the drying racks, and then set the additives in these pots to be fertilizer, which will automatically increase the quality of your plants from the standard blue to purple. In terms of timings, I don't really know how long it takes a coke plant to grow. However, the output is 9 cocoa leaves from each plant. The drying racks can dry however many coke leaves to a better quality over 12 hours, and that is 12 hours for each quality. The cauldrons will then cook 20 leaves for 6 hours into 10 coke base, and then the lab oven turns 10 coke base into 10 cocaine, also over 6 hours. So a good rule of thumb is to use 1 cauldron per every 8 drying racks / pots if you're drying to gold, or 1 cauldron per 4 pots / drying racks if you're only getting it to purple quality. Now I believe if you were to use fertilizer in your plants, you would need the fertilizer at a rate of 1:1 depending on how much soil you have, because I believe the additive actually stays in the soil, meaning if you have the more expensive soil that lasts for 2 or 3 plants, then you'll need to refill it less. Now just one last thing to note, if you go and order from the cocaine dealer, he will charge you $150 per cocoa seed. However, if you message him for a dead drop, it will only cost you $80. Now if you want to meet up with him, this will also be $150, so if you want to save some money, I would definitely recommend just ordering dead drops. Now if you choose to make coke in the barn as opposed to the docks, the dead drop box is actually right next to the barn. Now last but not least, these are my earnings for the day. Now I only actually have 4 dealers. I didn't bother with the other 2 because I like to sell myself, and when selling myself, I usually make about as much as my dealers do. So in total, you're making about $70,000 $100 per day, possibly even more if you decide to hire more dealers. But anyways guys, that is where we're going to leave it for today. I hope you learned something, or if not, I hope you can use this setup to make as much money as I do, and that's about it from me. Take care and peace.